The war launched by the United States and Israel against Iran is having a massive impact on the global economy. Every country is being affected. As this conflict has triggered one of the largest oil shocks in modern history, even surpassing the crises of 1973 and 1979, the effects are especially severe in Asia, where many countries depend heavily on oil imports from the Persian Gulf. The Philippines has already declared a national emergency and begun rationing energy due to shortages. Japan, another major importer, has released record amounts of oil from its national reserves. In response, the International Energy Agency, IEA, consisting of 32 member countries, agreed to release 400 million barrels of oil. However, this is only a short-term solution. Oil prices remain high and continue to rise due to ongoing disruptions, since oil is essential for transportation, food supply, and industrial production. Global leaders are warning that this crisis could lead to a worldwide recession. Rising energy costs are also increasing food prices, as fertilizers depend on chemicals produced in the Gulf region. Higher inflation may lead to increased interest rates, making loans and mortgages more expensive, especially for poorer populations. To better understand the economic and geopolitical consequences of this conflict, economist Michael Hudson explains that this war is part of a long-term strategy. According to him, the United States has for decades aimed to control Middle Eastern oil resources. This strategy dates back to the 1970s, when policymakers discussed the importance of dominating global energy markets to maintain economic power. Control over oil has allowed the United States to influence other countries by controlling energy supply. The goal has always been to ensure that oil exporting nations remain dependent on the U.S. financial system and invest their profits in American markets. This war, therefore, is not sudden. It represents the continuation of a long-standing geopolitical objective. Hudson emphasizes that oil is the most important commodity in the world. It is not only used for energy, but also for chemicals, fertilizers, and industrial production. The U.S. strategy has relied on controlling oil flows to influence global economies. By managing supply, it could pressure other countries to align with its policies. However, the current conflict is changing this dynamic. Iran is now challenging this system by asserting control over key energy routes and resources. This marks a shift in global power, where control over oil is no longer dominated by a single country. One of the most critical developments in this war is Iran's control over the Strait of Hormuz, the world's most important oil transit route. Around 20% of global oil trade passes through this narrow passage. Iran has signaled that it may restrict access and change the terms of oil trade. Instead of using the US dollar, it is pushing for transactions in alternative currencies, such as China's yuan. This move directly challenges the long-standing petrodollar system, where oil is traded globally in US dollars. If successful, it could weaken the dominance of the dollar in international markets. The war is already creating serious economic consequences. Oil prices are rising sharply, increasing production and transportation costs across industries. This is expected to cause inflation worldwide, especially in developing countries that rely heavily on imported energy. Higher costs for fertilizers may also lead to a global food crisis. Countries in the global south are particularly vulnerable. Rising import costs and existing debt burdens could lead to financial instability, currency devaluation, and economic crises. Even developed economies are facing pressure as governments struggle to balance rising energy costs with social spending and political stability. Hudson warns that the situation could lead to a broader global crisis. Energy shortages, rising food prices, and financial instability may combine to create a prolonged economic downturn. Industries that depend on energy and raw materials are already under pressure. Farmers, for example, are struggling with high fertilizer costs, which may reduce agricultural production at the same time. Governments may be forced to cut social spending while increasing military budgets, leading to political tensions and public dissatisfaction. In conclusion, this war is not just a regional conflict. It is a turning point that could reshape the global economic system. The central question is whether the United States will maintain control over global energy markets or whether a new multipolar system will emerge with countries like Iran and China playing a larger role. The outcome of this conflict will determine the future structure of the global economy and the balance of power in the world.